Welcome to episode 2 of As in the Days of Noah. Last week I discussed the Nephilim, terrible giants that were hybrid demons and human. Do the Nephilim still walk the earth? According to some, Sasquatch may be the link between the Nephilim and man. What can we say about Sasquatch, or Bigfoot as he is more commonly known? What or whom is it? Where did they come from? Are they harmful? My guest interviewer, Shetan Noir, has some unique insights into cryptozoology and has agreed to speak with me concerning both Bigfoot and Dogman. So listen in.
So hello, would you please introduce yourself to our audience and then tell me a little bit about your background and your history.
Sure, I would love to. So my name is Shetan Noir. I am a paranormal investigator. I am a cryptozoologist. I am a paranormal travel journalist, and I also own Squatch GQ Publications, which includes Cryptozoology Digest, Into the Liminal Abyss Paranormal Magazine, Dinosauria and Prehistoric Creatures Magazine, and Rock-Hounded Prospector Magazine.
Wow.
I have written several books. 3 are cryptozoology, which include lake monsters and odd creatures of the Great Lakes.
Very cool.
Flying Monsters of the Midwest, Beyond Mothman. Then I have a children's book that is Bigfoot versus Keegan Gray, or The Marvelous Misadventures of Keegan Gray. And it's about her having a tea party and Bigfoot crashes her tea party. It's a children's book done with real photography of my dog and her little puppet friends, and a Bigfoot that is as ridiculous looking of a Bigfoot costume as I could get on a PVC frame, that's just propped up in different areas of my yard as she's setting traps to catch the Bigfoot.
Very nice. Well, I hope that goes really well with you. That sounds very interesting.
They have been some of my best-selling books.
Oh, well, cool. That's awesome. And so you can tell why we've invited Shetan here, especially my interest with cryptids.
Yes.
Bigfoot and Dogman, more specifically, that you and I had discussion on the phone and through Facebook Messenger and stuff about wanting to take some trips this year, and you could teach me a little bit about how you look for these creatures, because they're quite elusive, are they not?
Typically, the only time we get a sighting of them is by accidental occurrences. So you're driving down the road and you catch a glimpse of them. You're hiking and you hear maybe them do a call or a knock in the woods, or you find a footprint, things of those natures. There are people who say that they have regular in-person encounters with the Bigfoots, and they have developed I don't want to say relationship with them, but they call it gifting and generational communication, where the Bigfoots will introduce their offspring generation after generation to the family living there. But what happens is, if that family moves or if that family dies, and the people who now move into that home aren't aware of the Bigfoot presence, then that sets up for a whole different encounter experience, because the Bigfoots that were used to this human activity of, oh, you're going to put out fruit, or you're going to put out food items for us, and we're going to come and eat it, and you can see us. I don't know really how they work with the cameras or getting their pictures taken, but when those foods start disappearing and the gifting stops, that's when the behavioral problems with the Bigfoot start occurring. And anytime you've seen, like at the zoos, if you watch the chimpanzees or the big apes or gorillas or orangutans, you'll notice that the adults are somewhat tolerant of behavior, but the younger ones start misbehaving, and that's where we see a lot of this throwing rocks and banging on buildings and aggressive behavior is the younger ones who become expectant of the human beings. They're going to put out the food, they're going to give us, whatever to play with, and then that stops. And so now there's a behavioral issue.
Because they don't understand why it stopped.
Exactly.
Most likely.
Exactly.
I mean, there's a possibility they might, but
Yeah,
I mean,
all they know is their source of food is gone, and their source of enrichment or toys or whatever the people put out for them is gone, and now that becomes an issue.
well, has there been any studies to indicate what people believe their intelligence levels are? I mean, I would have to assume, just given their sheer size, we look at, let's say, animals or creatures or mammals or whatnot. A cat has a size of a brain about the size of a walnut, and they can still understand about 200 different commands from humans. So as you grow in stature and the brain enlarges, I wonder if there's a correlation
So
in
there's
intelligence.
there's different aspects of intelligence. So we as human beings consider ourselves the most intelligent species on the planet, but that's in our reality, sitting here, walking out there. But if we were to go into the ocean, we're not,
Right.
because we don't know how to exist 24 hours, 7 days a week,
Right.
365 days a year at bottoms that would bottom level depths that would crush us. But whales and squids and sharks can.
True.
So we as human beings, we think that we are the most intelligent species on the planet, and yet that's only in our current surroundings. Being in a building, walking outside, driving in your car, in our day-to-day experiences. But if you take a human being and you put them at the bottom of the ocean, they're no longer the smartest, because they cannot exist in those levels of pressure or that environment. But a whale can, some sharks can, squids, octopuses can. Take us out into the middle of the wilderness and strip us of all of our necessities. As in, you only have the clothing that you're wearing and the shoes on your feet. And you put them 100 miles into the middle of nowhere. How many people are going to make it out?
Very few. If any.
Everybody's got their own specialty, I guess.
So when we think of intelligence, obviously a dog is smarter than a cat. But is a cat as smart as an alligator, or reverse? An alligator is smarter than a dog, because it's been proven that alligators, crocodilians, can learn what words mean. Keepers can name a crocodilian and teach it its name, and it will respond. But they are also ambush predators. They know how to use their surroundings to blend in, and then when we, human beings or any animal, goes into their system, water, swamps, what have you, suddenly we are not the apex predator, we are the prey.
Right.
So when we look at the intelligence of a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you may call them, or a dog man, we're looking at a creature that is larger than us as a human being. The adults we typically estimate to be over 7 feet tall, between 7 and 9 feet tall, heavier than us, but have a brain size that matches that.
Right.
So when you have a brain that's larger and you have hands that you can manipulate things with, you can use tools, that gives you more to work with, more intelligence. And just because we don't see Bigfoot as doctors or scientists or dogman or as any of those, does not mean that we should not believe that they're intelligent. we should believe that they're intelligent because they have found a way of existing in this world, Earth, as a species that doesn't have to interact with human beings if it does want to. They are totally fine with living in the wilderness, eating from the wilderness, drinking from the wilderness, and if they happen upon a human or a human happens upon them, they will handle the situation accordingly.
Meaning, depending on what is actually occurring with the human being and what their process
So
is towards
is
the
the
Bigfoot.
human being just driving down the road and the creature is just spotted briefly and then as you go past it flees back into the woods? Are you hiking and it makes its presence known? Are you walking through the woods and it makes its presence known? Either by making a tree knock or vocalizing or stepping out on the trail in front of you. These are more predatory behaviors. These are signaling all the other Bigfoots or dogmen around that, hey, we've got a human coming. What do we want to do about this? And also, is the human taking what those creatures might consider a food source? Are we hunting deer? Deer are a big food source. Are we hunting the rabbits, the ducks, the raccoons, all food sources? Are we picking wild berries, blackberries, raspberries?
So all those things they would possibly perceive as a threat then, right?
Because
They have to
even fishing out of streams and rivers, taking the fish, those are food resources that these creatures rely upon, whereas we can just go to the grocery store and buy those. They have to catch them out in the wild, and if a human being is coming along taking what they perceive as theirs, then that becomes a territorial behavior that they are going to try to scare you out of the area so that you no longer decimate their food.
Makes sense. Makes complete sense. Well, and that kind of tells you about their intelligence level, really. I mean, not the fact that they see you taking their food so much, but the fact that they're communicating with, you said other Sasquatch, but possibly other dogmen, which is a whole other species.
Right.
And, warning basically that whole tribe up there, right? Hey, there's poachers basically coming into our land, right?
Which is not so, think about us as humans. If we want to get somebody's attention, we whistle at them, we yell at them. If we have a horn, we blow a horn at them. Sometimes we throw things at them.
Yeah, right.
And so the Bigfoots and the dogmen are just as intelligent because they know how to communicate with others of their kind to say, hey, there's a human coming.
That's pretty crazy. Tell me a little bit about that instance you told me on the phone about when you were just taking a leisurely walk with your little puppy and you happened upon...
She's not a puppy. She's just a little min pin.
Oh.
So I was on my way to Menominee, Michigan for a Bigfoot conference that I was presenting at. And from here, where I live, up to that rest area, it's about an 8-hour drive. And I was making good time, so I figured I would pull in there because it's a wonderful rest area. It's right outside of Nubian Way in Upper Michigan, the UP of Michigan. And it's right there on the shores of Lake Michigan. So from the parking lot of the rest area, you can walk. There's 2 gazebos. They're very small gazebos, but they lead you down onto the beach. This was relatively early in the morning.
Okay.
Just past sunup. This was early June. And it was... The sand was very packed down. Nobody had really been on the beach yet because it was so early in the morning. And I had walked my dog to the west of on the beach, just trying to stretch her legs and get her to do her business. And then there was a stream cut through the beach coming down from the roadway. And so I wanted to walk over and get pictures of that. And so as I walked over there, now, whenever I'm traveling with my dogs, I have anywhere that up to 3 that I travel with. They are all small dogs, but they always wear a harness, a hiking harness, and a long hiking lead on them. And so I had her on the hiking lead with her harness on, and as I'm taking pictures of the stream cut, I hear her making a sneezing sound. Now, she has been trained in just the basics of tracking. So I turned to look down to where she was and to see what she was sneezing at, and here were these footprints. They were not cougar, they were not bear. And if they are canine, they are very huge canines. My little miniature pinscher, her paw print is about the size of a quarter.
Okay.
From, the end of one pad to the top of
Her toe.
the toe pad. Her paw print will fit inside of a quarter. Her paw print fit into one of the toes. Now, being that I wasn't expecting to see any paw prints or any evidence, I didn't have anything other than what was on me to measure with. So my feet are a size 11 women's shoe, a size 10 men's shoe. So I put my foot right next to one of the better impressions into the ground and took several pictures. And this footprint is over half the length of my foot.
Do you mean twice as long as your foot?
No, half the length of my foot.
So it's only this big, or?
It's longer than half of my foot.
Okay.
Doesn't take up quite the same size as
It's
my
not
foot,
quite as large as your foot,
but about, I would say, 3/4 of my foot. And it's wider than my foot. And considering I wear a size 11, and I usually try to go for a size 11 wide shoe, for it to be wider than my foot, that's quite impressive.
We're looking at, probably something, 5 by 8?
I wish I could have measured it at the time, but I had nothing.
But I mean, even that.
Yeah.
So maybe like this, I mean, what dog has a paw that big that we're aware of?
Right,
and what is it, a mastiff or something, or a?
Even mastiffs don't have a footprint
That large?
big. I personally, my big dog at my house is a 130-pound Connie Corso Mastiff. Her footprints aren't that big. Our German Shepherds that are about 95 pounds, I have pictures of their footprints next to mine. It's about 2 inches short.
And you also mentioned the indentation to me.
Yeah, so I'm about 180 pounds and I was barely making any indentation in the sands. My miniature pinscher was stepping into the fluffier sand because she does like to play in it and dig in it. And she was very trace amount. This footprint was pressed into the ground. And there was a track of them going down to the water's edge. There wasn't any return track, so wherever it came out at, it was in a different spot. So whether it was going down there to drink or to fish or whatever, it came out at a different area.
Yeah, walking along the waters.
Those prints were pushed into the sand. I would say half inch or more.
Half inch or more.
No, I wouldn't say any deeper than an inch, but they were pressed in the sand, and the length between footprints was longer than what I could comfortably step myself.
So it's stride even in between.
And I'm 5'9".
Both sides.
Yeah, I'm 5'9", and this was a wider gate than what I could manage.
So over 3 feet then, most likely. So we're probably looking at something that's, probably 7 feet tall or more?
At least.
Maybe 600 pounds?
Did you get pictures of it?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do have, I took pictures of my foot right next to the footprints so that I could, because I was going to a Bigfoot conference and I was going to be like, hey guys, come here.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody, what is this?
Stop to go potty and look at that.
And then everybody's like, well, where was this?
Uh-huh.
You know, I told them the exact location. They're all like, that's all the way over in Michigan. I'm like, well, I didn't say it was close.
Right.
My guys. So, you know, getting that picture or series of pictures with, you know, and I was wearing what I call my strappy sandals, which have a thinner strap on them, so you can clearly see my foot with my teal chipped nail polish, you know, right next to this very deep track that's, you know, into the sand. And the crazy thing about this is that foot track is less than 150 feet from that rest area. So this creature had no fear of humans because it knows humans come in and out of that rest area all day.
Yeah, it had no fear of being seen, did it?
No. Or interacting with humans, it just didn't care. It was going for a drink, it was going to go fishing, it was going to do whatever it wanted to do. And, oh well, if there's humans in the vicinity.
Right, like what's somebody going to do about it?
Right.
You know, something that large, you know. And you know, you mentioned earlier that usually sightings are happenstance.
Right.
So is that more than likely why, probably like when we see the TV shows of people out hunting Bigfoot, they might find some trace evidence, but you usually don't get any shots, right?
Well, so people, you know, there's a very weird expectation with the TV shows that do cryptozoology. Paranormal locations, you can usually get evidence in one night there, but when you're dealing with living, breathing creatures that roam in and out of an area, they're not contained at all. It can be, like you said, a happenstance of when you might get a sighting or evidence. Scientists, biologists who go out to document animals that they think live in a location. They set up camera traps everywhere, and they can go 6 months without anything showing up on that camera. And then one day, they get a surprise picture of the very animal that they're looking for. And a lot of times with these shows, the researchers are maybe in location for a week, maybe 2 weeks. And what normally happens, and any hunter will tell you this, when humans go into an area and they are either making noise or they're trying to be very discreet,
Things scattered.
the natural world realizes that, hey, there's somebody here, and will disperse. And it isn't until they become accustomed to the human being being there that they will come back around. Birds are always around humans because they see us every day. And usually their interactions with us are we feed them.
Right.
We throw them, ducks, geese, the same thing. But if you're in a lake where there's not human populations that are throwing out food, the ducks are going to be very wary of you. The same concept applies to the Bigfoots and the dogmen. They know that you're there, but they're going to watch you to see what you're doing. And some researchers will say, well, we're going to act like we're camping. Because, there's nothing threatening about camping.
Sure.
If anything, we're going to be entertainment for them. And they secretly put up cameras here and there and try to get, footage. Sometimes they get some, sometimes they don't. But it's always interesting when they don't have the camera traps that they will get encounters where they're in their tents, but something is brushing up against the tent. Something might pee on the side of the tent, marking it as territory. I know of one Bigfoot researcher who, this was about 5 years ago when the peanut butter traps were really popular. They would open up a can of peanut butter and hang it with twine or something from a tree in hopes that the Bigfoots would reach in and, pull out the peanut butter to eat it and would leave hair. And I know of at least one researcher who that angered the Bigfoot, and when they got back to their tent was covered with peanut butter on the outside.
It's kind of funny. It's almost like he's got a sense of humor.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like, how dare you do this?
Yeah, I know what
I'm
you
going to wipe my
did.
hands off.
Here's the proof of it. Yeah.
Are they going to come into your campsite and steal food?
They
Like
can.
the bear will?
They can't, because to them it's, well, if you're going to leave the food out, we're going to eat it.
Right.
And,
I'm not an expert on cryptids. I'm more of an expert on ghosts and demonic stuff, but I've been doing a lot of reading lately because I want to get into understanding this more. And it seems to me like 90% of the times, the stories I hear about a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch, they're actually quite passive and they really don't seem to want to hurt people. They just kind of want to be left alone unless they present themselves to you. Where what I've read about the dog man, every single encounter from people's perspective of what they witnessed supposedly is that these things are very aggressive, very assertive. And it makes me wonder, it's almost like a wild dog versus a monkey.
well, and that's where we have some misinformation, because if you research wild canines like wolves and foxes versus primates like chimpanzees and apes, a lot of times what we see depicted of the ape behavior, they try to show them as a very passive animal, but research how chimpanzees go to war. It's not a pleasant thing, because when zoos have a colony of existing chimpanzees or apes or bonobos or gorillas or anything of that matter, it's very hard to introduce a new member to the group because they will attack it and kill it.
Is that because even if they're not with the same DNA, don't they kind of like cluster as a family after a while, right?
There are family groups. Now, the only time there's a exception is when they get tired of the existing dominant male, the females will just get rid of them. Or a bigger, younger male will come in and dispatch that other male, and then he's breeding with them. But then the moms kind of have to worry about their new offspring, because it's a very known fact that new males in a group will try to kill the other male's offspring.
I heard that.
And the females aren't going to put up with that. So warfare in the animal kingdom is just as violent, whether it's primates or canines, even felines, that are similar in human behavior, but because we want to believe that the primates are civil and more peaceful, we don't tend to, pay attention to that. But the apes and the primates and the chimpanzees are just as likely to attack as the canines. So
I would agree.
People think that the Bigfoots are more passive, and that's what people have been led to believe. But there's just as many reports out there of the Bigfoots being aggressive and not wanting the human activity, not wanting humans in their territory, and doing what they can to chase them out, whether it's throwing rocks at them, stalking them, chasing them. It's very unlikely that a human being would survive a Bigfoot
I wouldn't see
attack.
how you could. Right?
Because one single chimpanzee is strong enough to rip a human being apart.
Right.
Now double that,
or more,
quadruple that to the size of a Bigfoot.
9 foot tall hairy beast coming in.
You have
Claws too. I mean, we don't have big claws.
Yeah.
You
have a animal that could easily pick up 100-pound boulders and just throw them at you.
Oh my goodness.
And if you get hit with a 100-pound boulder, you're not doing any much. You're just you're going to become part of the landscape. And now, in the dog man, of course, we see it as more predatory because it's a canine. We know that wolves hunt. That's how they make their living. We know that coyotes hunt. Coyotes are the banes of farmers and ranchers everywhere, but they are just as important to the ecosystem, because they will take out the sick and injured animals that will spread diseases to other populations.
Sure.
So, but we see the canines, even though we all love our domestic dogs, whether it's a Chihuahua or a Great Dane, and any breed in between. But when we see the wolves, we recognize that as a predator that is a threat to human beings.
Sure.
Now you scale that creature, that four-legged wolf, which are quite big, up to a 7 to 9 foot tall bipedal creature that hunts in a pack, and suddenly you have a very bad scenario for a human being encountering them.
And yet people are out looking for them. And I stuff I read, you don't know what's true and what's not, but I'm getting the indication that a lot of people go out to actually hunt them, to harm these things.
And that,
which I don't agree with, by the way. Just like,
no, and they say they do it for science. The problem with hunting and killing a dogman or a Bigfoot is, one, the only thing you're going to learn is the forensics from a corpse. You're not going to learn anything about intelligence,
no behavioral activity,
behavior, personality, none of that.